Man, that guy was just nasty and mean on a guitar. That's Stevie Ray Vaughan. Let's get to know him a little bit.
I like to be educated, but I'm so frustrated.
Yeah, guys, I'm tell you what, I hear people talking about it all the time when you talk about people like Jimi Hendrix, Muddy Waters, Albert King, and people like that. They're always throwing that name up, Stevie Ray Vaughan. But honestly, I'm not the biggest fan of him, but I can't take anything away from this guy, man. When I listen to that guy play, man, I haven't heard too many people to match it, you know what I'm saying? I understand why everybody is trying to be like him and sound like him. He has an incredible story. I want to get into that tonight, learn a little bit more about exactly who this man was and behind the scenes. It's going to be a little in-depth, so hang around to the end, and I'll see you guys at the bottom. Oh yeah, man. You want to know his story and why he's a legend, right, y'all? Huh? All right, Music Mindset family, I got you. I'll tell you exactly why Stevie's name is synonymous with the blues and why, even though he was taken too soon, his legacy still has a stranglehold on guitar players around the world. Stick with me, y'all. You're in for a ride. Stevie Ray Vaughan wasn't just another guitar player, he was a force of nature. Born on October 3, 1954 in Dallas, Texas, Stevie was raised in a household where music was always in the air. His older brother Jimmy Vaughan was already a guitarist, and Stevie was drawn to the guitar at a very early young age, picking it up at just 7 years old. He didn't have formal lessons at first. Instead, he learned by listening to records, watching his brother play, and figuring things out by ear. It was raw, unfiltered, and deeply instinctual. But here's where it gets interesting. Stevie wasn't just drawn to any music, it was blues that spoke to him. And not just any blues. Stevie idolized Jimi Hendrix and Muddy Waters. Jimmy, with his explosive sound, distortion, and virtuosity, was the artist who made Stevie realize that the guitar could be more than just an instrument. It could be an extension of the soul. And Muddy? Muddy Waters' gritty blues, full of pain and raw emotion, became the bedrock of Stevie's style. The powerful rhythms of Muddy's songs were the heartbeat of the blues, and Stevie built upon them, infusing his own spirit. In his early years, Stevie played in bars around Texas, slowly building a name for himself. By the time he was 18, he was already known as one of the best guitarists in the Dallas scene, playing in clubs where the audience wasn't kind. I mean, if you weren't good, they're gonna let you know.
See, in Dallas at the time, and still, it's pretty much still this way, not quite as bad. They used to hand you a list of songs, top 40 songs. If you didn't play those songs, you didn't have a gig. Unless you played the cellar or somewhere, which was just waiting time.
But Stevie, he had it. The confidence, the talent, and that fire. His style was one part Jimi Hendrix with the soul of Muddy Waters, and he brought it to every stage he graced. But the story gets darker before it gets better. By the mid-'80s, Stevie was caught up in a grip of addiction. Drugs and alcohol ravaged him, and his life kind of began to spiral. This wasn't just the story of a talented musician. This was a man who had to fight for his life. We're talking about Stevie in his most vulnerable moments, locked in hotel rooms, passing out on stages, and at times, losing grip on reality. But let's backtrack a little. What really got Stevie on the map, what put him on the radar of the world, was 1983's Texas flood.
Well, it's flooding down in Texas.
This album wasn't just an album, it was a declaration. When Stevie unleashed that lead track, it was like a sonic explosion. His sound was unapologetically raw, his guitar work impeccable. It felt like nothing had sounded quite like it before. But you want to know the real kicker? It was Stevie's breakthrough that came not just through the music, but through his unforgiving work ethic. Now, let's talk about the man behind the fame, his personal life. In the mid-70s, Stevie fell for Lenora Lenny Bailey, a woman who became a major part of his life, and by many accounts, his wife, or at least in common law. Their relationship was passionate, though like many relationships under the weight of addiction, it was strained. Lenny stuck with him through his darkest moments, but their relationship was tested to the fullest. In December 1979, before a show in Houston, Stevie Ray Vaughan was arrested by an off-duty cop who caught him using cocaine near an open window. Charged with possession, he made bail for about $1,000. At the time, Vaughan was opening for blues legend Muddy Waters, who warned Stevie could be the greatest guitar player that ever lived, but he won't live to see 40 if he doesn't leave that white powder alone. Muddy was trying to tell him something that he needed to hear. In early 1980, Vaughan faced multiple court dates. On April 17th, he was sentenced to 2 years probation, banned from leaving Texas, and ordered into drug treatment, conditions he initially resisted. After hiring a lawyer, his probation terms were modified so he could tour out of state. The experience left a mark. From then on, Vaughan refused maid service in hotel rooms, fearing that he would be set up again. In 1986, Stevie hit rock bottom. His addiction had taken him to a place of no return. Through it all, Lenny still loved him, but the life they were living was taking a toll. She had stood beside him through the trials, through his fights with addiction, through his comeback, and through years of highs and lows. But her love alone just couldn't keep them together. So they eventually split after over 6 years, never having children together. Yet Stevie's love for her never waned. But in a defining moment, he was back in rehab again. And from that moment on, everything changed. He got clean, and his playing was more intense than ever. He dove into his music with a renewed passion. In Step was released in 1989, and it was a reflection of his rebirth. Stevie had found himself again. It wasn't just about playing guitar anymore. It was about being alive again. And just about this time, he also found a new love when he met Jana Lapidus, who was a New Zealander he met while touring in Wellington. They began dating in 1988, and she was eventually known as his fiancée. Jana and Stevie were together for about 4 years, all the way up to that fateful day. Now let's not forget about Jimmy Vaughan, Stevie's older brother, who was not only a fellow musician, but a rock in Stevie's life. As you can see, the brotherly bond between them was deep, even if their paths often diverged professionally. But all that would be short-lived.
There's been a major blow to the rock music world. A deadly helicopter crash early this morning in Wisconsin. 5 people have been killed, including rock guitarist Stevie Ray Vaughan and other members of rock star Eric Clapton's band. Clapton, however, was not aboard the helicopter. It was heading to Midway Airport in Chicago following a concert late last night. No word yet on the cause.
On August 27, 1990, just as Stevie was hitting his stride, he was taken from us.
Stevie Ray Vaughan wasn't even supposed to take that helicopter flight, but at the last minute, there was an empty seat.
The helicopter crash that killed him after his final show at Alpine Valley Music Theater was a devastating loss for the music world. Man, Stevie was just 35 years old. It felt like the blues world had lost its greatest voice. The tragedy was not just his death, but the fact that Stevie had so much more to give that we'll never see. And Stevie's death wasn't just a personal loss. It was felt by his bandmates, his fans, and his peers. This thing hit deep.
I guess it's just something I'll never get over that. I'll get better about it, but I'll never get over it.
We'd done so much together. Honestly, for a while I felt like, wait a minute, I was supposed to have been on there too. I had such confusing feelings. It totally ripped my life apart.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound.
His influence was undeniable, and it stretched far beyond Texas. People talked about Stevie's ability to connect with his audience. He wasn't just a performer. He was a conduit for the soul of the blues. Stevie Ray Vaughan, the man who combined the raw power of Jimmy and the soul of Muddy, left behind a legacy that we still feel today. People still talking about the guy. He became a symbol of perseverance, passion, and a pure love of music. His story wasn't just about being a guitar virtuoso, it was about being a man who fought. He fought against the odds. He fought against his own demons. And ultimately, he became part of the blues immortality. You can mention a lot of names when you think of blues playing, but you definitely can't forget to mention Stevie Ray Vaughan. Yeah, man. So what I'm learning about music, man, music is incredible, man, and what it can do to change lives and affect lives and stuff like that. And it seems like we hear an ongoing, repetitive story in the tragedies of what happens to people who get involved in music and stuff like that. But it's not stopping people from learning and getting into music. Music just has to be a part of some people's lives, and that's what it is. But sometimes it ends up destroying your life if you're not careful. Stevie Ray Vaughan was an incredible musician, but his life story is kind of pretty typical to some of the other people who've gone down that same path, unfortunately. But it doesn't take away from how great he was, and it doesn't take away from how people feel about him, even in 2025. I hope you appreciate that look, guys, and come back to the channel for more things like this. I'm Mr. Mindset on the Music Mindset channel, and I'm going to see you guys in the next one.